computer go. Sweet, thank you. Hello, everyone. And so today's events, we're going to start with our clubs on campus, and then we're going to go to Roston. He is our medical student, and then we're going to go to our two advisors, Dr. Heath and Dr. McKinnell. They're going to help us out today. So our first presenter today, I believe, is from AMSA, one of the clubs on campus that deals with pre-med. So our AMSA representative, could you unmute and give us your 5-minute spiel, please?
There is a screen also just in case you have anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, okay. Hi, sorry for joining late. So I am the president of AMSA. It's so good to see everyone here tonight, even though we are virtually meeting. It's still good to see some faces. I'm the president this year. I have been a part of AMSA since my freshman year. I'm currently a senior, going to graduate in May. And so what AMSA is about, it's a PreMed group, and we focus a lot on our bi-weekly meetings. We have meetings every Tuesday night from 6 to 7. They would usually have been on the 3rd floor of the sub, but because of COVID, we're actually doing our meetings this year and maybe next year too over Zoom. And so we give out our meeting information as well as all of our other types of information through our listserv. And so I'm going to go ahead and put our email in the chat. And so if you're interested in becoming a part of AMSA, I would highly suggest you to email us and saying that you would like to be part of our listserv, so then we could add you, and then we could give you our reminders of when our emails are, as well as our PreMed group focuses a lot on other stuff as well, such as monthly volunteering. So we're actually going to be volunteering tomorrow at Joy Junction. It's a really good opportunity, especially during COVID, because it's really hard to find some volunteering opportunities. And so the first Friday of the month, we try to volunteer at this Joy Junction homeless shelter. And the way that we do it this year is we've been doing outside work for the homeless shelter because we want to maintain social distance. So again, we send out our information for these volunteering events through our listserv. We also have other types of volunteering events that we try to put on. For example, we've done the Roadrunner Food Bank volunteering in the past, as well as in previous years, we've done other types of volunteering, such as helping with like walks, like Light the Night. And then we've also volunteered on North Campus as well. And then another aspect of AMSA that we like to promote is workshops. Our faculty advisor is Dr. Coffee Brown. He's the head of the EMS Academy on North Campus. He's been the advisor for as long as I can remember. And so throughout the semester, he holds about 1 or 2 workshops, and these workshops vary, but it's very beneficial, especially because Dr. Coffee Brown is on the board of medical admissions for UNM School of Medicine. So it's very good to start sort of preparing for med school if you haven't started seriously thinking about that. Going to these meetings, you get to really interact one-on-one with Dr. Coffee Brown, and you might even become acquaintances with him. It's really important trying to get yourself out there, and then you could get advice straight from someone who's on the admissions board. So it's really important that if you would like to go to medical school, especially here at UNM, that you try to attend all these outside events and stuff. But other than that, I think those are the main aspects of MCAT. Again, if you have any questions or you'd like to be put on our listserv, I put our email in the chat, and then as well as I can put my own email if you'd like to reach out to find out more information directly from me. But other than that, thank you for letting me speak about AMSA, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Corbin. We appreciate you sharing on behalf of AMSA today. We do have another UNM pre-med organization, the PreMed Society. So if our representative from the PreMed Society can join us and unmute and tell us about the PreMed Society, please, we'd greatly appreciate it. Is our person from the PreMed Society here? Okay, well, maybe at the end of our meeting today, they can jump on if they do join us a little bit later. So next thing, we are going to go to our medical student, Roston Amadian. He is going to present about his experiences in medical school, as well as what he did in undergrad to help him get to where he is today. So Rostin, if you could please join us and give us your presentation. At the end of his presentation, there will be a short little Q&A period. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat when you're thinking about it, or unmute afterwards and ask the questions then. Thank you very much, Rostin.
Hey, thank you so much. Are you guys able to see and hear me?
We can hear you, but I cannot see you.
All righty. How about now?
That's much better.
All right, good deal. So thank you guys for having me. I went ahead and put a small presentation together for you folks talking about history, a little bit about my background, as well as some tips and tricks that I used to get into medical school. In the chat, I just sent out a copy of this presentation. Let me see if I can get it over there for you guys. There are some links and resources that I provided, and it just might be easier for you guys if you're able to take a look at that after the fact when we're not necessarily in the presentation. Yeah, let's see if I can get it over for you guys. Am I not able to send out PowerPoints in the chat right now? Is that something that I'm not allowed to do at the moment?
You should be able to drop a link into the chat. If that's not working, if you want to email it to me, I can put it in the chat. But to start right now, you are able to share your screen and we can deal with those technical difficulties a little bit later.
Sure, no problem. All right, you guys can see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
All right, good deal, good deal. Well, my name is Rostin Ahmadian. I'm MD PhD student at UNM. And so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a description of what the MD PhD journey has been like, some things that I did in undergrad, and some things I would have done differently. So to get things started, I actually went to UNM for my undergrad graduate training. I was a Regent Scholar there from 2011 to 2015, and graduated with a BS in biochemistry and a minor in honors. Between undergrad and medical school, I took a year off and I worked as a research technician in the cancer research facility. And I'm currently in the MD PhD program, started in 2016, and I'm currently undecided on what medical specialty I want to go into. Started interested in surgery. Now I'm starting to think something like emergency medicine might be a good fit. So we just got to see how things develop. I've got a few years to go. Currently, I'm conducting my PhD studies in physiology, and hopefully I'll be done with that in a year or two. So for those of you that do not know, UNM offers two programs at the School of Medicine. One is an MD program and one is a MD PhD program. The MD program is structured as follows. You get 2 years of preclinical training and 2 years of clinical training that results in a 4-year medical school experience. Most medical schools require you to pay out of pocket to participate in the programs, but there are some popping up around the country that are now offering free tuition. MD PhD programs, on the other hand, are designed to result in the attainment of both an MD and a PhD. The traditional structure is that you conduct 2 years of your preclinical training, just like medical school, but right smack dab in the middle, you leave medical school and you go get a PhD, which takes around 4 to 5 years. And then you come back at the last 2 years, you complete your clinical training and go off and do residency like other medical students. What's really nice about MD PhD programs is that all expenses are paid. This includes tuition and fees, and most programs offer monthly stipends for students to live off of as well. So even though it's a very long commitment, there are some short-term benefits that these the programs offer. So the question becomes, which is right for me? There are different attributes of individuals that go that pursue just an MD or just an MD PhD. So for example, if an individual is interested in a career that involves clinical care only, they may be drawn more towards an MD by itself. Similarly, people that may be interested in working in private hospitals, or folks that are interested in clinical research, might find the MD track more efficient to achieve their goals. An MD PhD program is a good fit for folks that are interested in combining research and clinical care in their training. Additionally, individuals that are okay with working in academia or industry might find a PhD beneficial as well. Importantly, though, the PhD also offers a level of competitiveness in the research community, because most of the folks that are conducting biomedical sciences research are PhDs. And so it's really helpful when you're an MD to have a PhD, the experience of a PhD under your belt, because it means you got a lot of research training and you've had a lot of experiences that'll make you more competitive in the grant writing process. So as I'm sure most of you know, there are a lot of aspects of a good MD application. You know, things like good grades, good MCAT score, community service, clinical experience, leadership, and research experiences with a publication if possible. And at the end of the day, you want to tell a very interesting and memorable story in your personal statement. So the way that I pitched my MD application is I actually wrote about my fencing career, which I did all through undergrad. That's a picture of me on the in the right side of the image, and I'm scoring a point against I think this was a South Korean fencer. We were at a national competition in Las Vegas. And so that's kind of how I structured my personal statement, and I encompassed all of these other attributes of my application under that one umbrella. And I think it made for an interesting case. So when you folks are getting ready to apply for medical school, try and find something unique about your story that you can really share with the committee to get them excited that you would be a good fit at their institution. Now, this is a good MD application. MD PhD applications are actually very similar. You need to have all the same attributes of an MD application because, quite frankly, a medical school needs to accept you before the MD PhD program at the medical school can accept you. The only difference is, in addition to all the other attributes that we discussed in the medical application, research experience is now absolutely crucial. And without research experience, you will be unable to achieve a position in an MD PhD program because they're looking for folks that are really interested in research and have a good track record. So this image right here is a picture of a nudibranch. It was actually the subject of my first research project, which I conducted in undergrad through the Honors College, which I thought was pretty cool. So I want to share this beautiful picture with you because if you look really closely at the body of the nudibranch, you can see little yellow dots. Those are actually the eggs. This nudibranch is looking like it's ready to lay a lot. Now, when I was getting close to the end of undergrad, I took some time and began to prepare for the MCAT. And there are a lot of different ways that folks can study for the MCAT. And what you guys end up deciding to do, really it needs to be tailored towards your specific needs when it comes to learning and strategies that are effective when you're studying. I went ahead and I showed you guys my strategy. This way it gives you some ideas of what worked for me, and maybe you can apply some of these yourself. So for the Psych-Soc section, I simply bought a Kaplan Psych-Soc textbook, read it end to end, and had a pretty good idea of what the Psych-Soc questions would be. So I just did practice questions after that. The Psych-Soc questions tended to be pretty straightforward in my opinion. When it came to the critical analysis and reading section, I read a couple of passages every night, starting pretty much day one. And over time, I got really good at that. The nice thing about the Psych-Soc section and the critical analysis and reading section is you really don't need to know a lot to do really, really well in those sections. So there's nothing wrong with starting your studies on those sections pretty early and just blowing those two out of the park, because you really don't need a lot of knowledge ahead of schedule to do well. And if you do that, then, well, that's what I did. And then by the time I got to the biochem, and physics sections, I was a little bit weaker on them. Granted, I was a biochem major, so not sure why that was the case. And I was able to dedicate a lot more of my time to preparing for these. So what I did is I just did a lot of questions, and if I didn't understand a concept or a topic for a specific question, I go watch a review video on it, or even had a meeting with some of my professors to talk about them. And that's really all I did. So hopefully you guys found this advice here helpful. Now, I had some community service and leadership experience going into medical school, as did a lot of the other applicants. I think what's really important, though, is when you're participating in community service experiences and leadership experiences, the medical schools really like to reward go-getters that are pursuing their passions. So, for example, if you're a student organization president, a lot of folks that are applying to med school have great leadership roles such as that. What really makes people stand out, though, is when they really harness these leadership roles and they do something super cool with it. So, for example, in this first example that I provided, while this I guess a hypothetical student was president, they led an initiative to raise money for UNMH pediatrics, and they talked about their passion for children and how it was great to see the impact. That really would give a unique curve to the application, not just to say, oh, this is a great person because they have nice leadership roles. Same thing with someone that plays an instrument. That's something really personal and unique that you might be able to leverage. And so in this example, I suggested that it would look good if this individual played the piano at a homeless shelter or offered free lessons to children, for example, and talked about how they're passionate about music and how they enjoyed sharing it with people. Another aspect of applications that I think is important is research opportunities and showing research experience. If you're interested in an MD PhD program, you have to have research experience. If you're interested in medical school, some research experience is always good to have. UNM offers a number of research opportunities that I've shown here. And once we get off of this, I'm going to send an email to Matt, and maybe he can send it out to you guys so you guys have direct access to these links. The first three programs I think are pretty well advertised for undergraduate students at UNM: the IMSD program, MART program, and undergraduate pipeline network. These are programs that exist at UNM where they have a network of mentors that students can plug into and see if the program can partner them up with mentors so they can get some research exposure. A really cool class that I participated in here is the fourth bullet point, EMS 475. This is a 2-semester clinical research training course that's actually offered through UNM's Department of Emergency Medicine. It's a great class. I highly encourage anyone interested in clinical research or medical school to participate in it. The way that the class is structured is for the first semester, you take some time learning about HIPAA and the thing go into putting together a nice clinical study. And then in the second semester, you actually get to go into the emergency department and help collect data on real studies that are going on in the emergency department. This is a great opportunity to meet emergency department physicians and mentors that you might have in the future. So moving on, there's also programs that you can participate in between undergrad and medical school, and they're called post-bac programs. UNM actually offers this. It's called the PrEP program. And this is a pretty fantastic program because when you work for them for a year and they find you a laboratory to work in, and during the entire experience, you are getting a $27,000 a year salary, along with retirement benefits, health benefits, you name it. And on top of that, you're getting some great research experience. Now, the route that I took was this third section right here, which I titled Go Get It. And if you're interested in research, you really don't need to be a part of any of these programs. All you need to do is look around at what the research opportunities are at UNM, what the research is being conducted at UNM, and just contact the professor that's running that laboratory and ask them if you could learn a little bit about their research and see if they've got space for a student to volunteer and help out around the lab. That's a great way to get your foot in the door, and most folks are open to that. So there are a couple things I would have done differently when I was in undergrad. The first thing is that I wish that I had more confidence in myself to implement programs and change. This kind of leads back to the point that I made earlier about community service and leadership. And it really looks good when you take initiative and take a leadership role in producing a nice product that helps the community. So one idea that I had was to form a UNM Doctors Without Borders group, where fundraising programs are put together that are donated to UNM, that are donated to Doctors Without Borders. But also find a way to get UNM students participating in Doctors Without Borders events around the country, so that way students get some hands-on experience on what it's like to be in the field. I didn't do this because I just felt like I was too small and I didn't have the confidence for something like that to be put together. In medical school, when the pandemic hit, though, I really found that confidence, and I co-founded a group called Protect NM, and our goal was to get PPE across the state of New Mexico and in the Southwest region. And at the end of the day, we distributed tons of material and airlifted over 1 million N95 masks in the region. And that really showed me that even though we're still just students, we can have a huge impact on the community. And I urge you guys that are thinking of applying to these programs, if there's something you're passionate about, it's going to look so good if you really fulfill that passion and make sure you live it to the fullest, because committee members pick up on that. And when your passion comes out in the interview, that really that really looks good. Another thing I would have done differently is actually I wouldn't have majored in biochemistry. And it turns out you don't need a major in science to go to medical school. I had initially selected biochemistry because it was an efficient way to get all the prereqs done, because all the prereqs are bio and biochem, and sure enough, biochem, you got to take all those classes, piece of cake. But the thing is, undergrad is a great time to explore new topics and ideas without any inhibition. Because when you get to medical school, it's so busy that your life becomes that, and you don't get to explore any other interests or topics while you're there. So really take advantage of this time that you have in undergrad. I would have majored in philosophy and English because I like arguing with people and I do it in English. So that's how I would have done that. And finally, I just want to stress to you guys that you really don't need to go straight into medical school from undergrad. That time between undergrad and med school is a great time to explore interests that you might have, as well as partake in things that you may not get to do in medical school. So just seeing the world, or maybe taking some time out just to learn a little bit more about yourself. And that's okay. The MCAT is accepted for up to 3 years. Your grades are accepted for quite some time as well. So as long as you're using that time to better yourself and or better prepare yourself for medical school, committees are going to be okay with that. So those are the things I wanted to share with you guys. I realize we're getting close to the amount of time that I had to present. So I just want to remind you that really enjoy the time that you have now during undergrad and take full advantage of it. Medical school committees are going to really appreciate that, especially when you can really flesh out your passions and share it with them. So with that, I'll go ahead and start seeing if we have any questions.
Thank you very much, Rostin. Now is the time. We've got a few minutes, 3-ish minutes to ask Rostin any questions you may have. Please feel free to type them in the chat and I can read them out loud and or unmute yourself and ask them directly.
A quick question. You said you were exploring surgery a little bit as a specialty, but now you're thinking something else. And I was wondering, what's it like? What did you learn about it? Because that's something I'm also interested in.
Yeah, that's a great question. Medicine is magical, and surgery is one of the most beautiful specialties out there, because there's a problem that comes into your operating room and you're able to do something about it and fix it. And in the process, you're able to literally look inside someone's body and really alleviate a lot of pain. And when I was doing some rotations, I was actually rotating with a neurosurgeon, and he and I had a great relationship. And so I was able to assist and do suctioning and irrigation while he was taking out someone's brain tumor. And it was just absolutely fabulous. I loved it. And surgery is still something I'm seriously considering. And I think if that's something you're interested in, you should definitely pursue it as well. The reason I started to consider other fields is just because it's a bodily thing. When I was staying there in the OR for that first 6-hour session, let's see here, at that time I was 24 years old. I was pretty young, right? And my knees were sore. So I was a little bit worried that if I had to do longer surgeries when I was in my mid 30s and 40s, I wouldn't be too happy with it. So that really caused me to want to consider other specialties before I really lock in surgery. And I wouldn't be too stressed about locking in a specialty before you go to medical school, because you're going to get 4 years to figure that out. So I suggest you keep your dreams in line and go for them. But in the process, keep an eye out for other specialties that might suit your interest and lifestyle.
Excellent, thank you.
And Rostin, we do have a question in the chat from Alana. Do you have any advice for shadowing or making connections with physicians before medical school?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to networking, it's like a snowball. Once you get your foot in the door and you meet one person, they're able to recommend you to more people. And after that, they're able to recommend you to more people until finally you know everybody. When it comes to finding physicians to shadow, the strategy that I used was fairly straightforward. I went on to UNM, the UNM hospital website, and I picked a department that I was interested in. So for example, let's say, no, let's pick a department that I know people in. Let's say we're talking about the Department of Neurosurgery, as we were talking before. So I'd go into the Department of Neurosurgery website and I'd find the faculty listings. And then I would just cold email doctors one after another until finally one would respond to me and say, yes, I'm willing to have you shadow me, go and get your volunteer badge, and then once you're certified, you can come in and talk. That's the primary mechanism that I used. And once I was in the network and I was meeting a lot of people, it got to the point I wasn't even emailing people. I was simply exchanging phone numbers and texting. But that's the way to do it. You got to send a lot of emails and don't stop until you get a yes. That's it's kind of a brute force strategy that I use there.
Sweet. And then we have one more question in the chat. This may not be directly for you, but are online shadowing opportunities impressive to medical schools if done during the pandemic alone, or are they not really that important?
Hey, that's a great question. I honestly don't know if I can answer that question because I didn't do any shadowing, didn't do any online shadowing. What I can tell you is that medical schools really appreciate some type of clinical experience. And so if you're able to secure a volunteer position at a hospital like Presbyterian, for example, and volunteer with their child life program, that does count as clinical experience. Shadowing is something that I don't know if you can substitute exclusively online because of the pandemic. So I honestly can't give you a good answer for that. I'd recommend that you contact the school's admissions, and for UNM at least, there's a fantastic woman there named Cindy Garcia, and she'd be able to give you some insight on if a committee would be interested in accepting online shadowing as a viable alternative. I'm sorry, I can't give you a specific on that.
Thank you
Hi,
very much.
Rostin. This is Sandra. I was just wondering if you're working on like research now in undergrad, is there any way to go into medical school and still be, providing like rigorous research while only having an MD, or would you recommend going through the MD PhD program? Because ideally I'd like to practice, but also, be putting out a lot of research as well. Thanks.
That is a great question. And that's the dilemma that hits a lot of our MD and MD PhD applicants. So I'm going to give you some questions to consider. And perhaps in considering these questions, you'll be able to tell yourself if you want to pursue an MD by itself or not. So the first question that you need to ask is what type of research do you want to be conducting? Okay, if you want to be conducting clinical research, it's fairly straightforward to be an MD and conduct clinical research because you're constantly in the hospital and you have a lot of fellow physicians that are also doing clinical research. So they're able to take you under your wing and mentor you. If you want to conduct bench research, it's a little bit tougher, but possible to do it with just an MD. And so you have to ask yourself, how much research do I want to do? And how many barriers am I capable of overcoming without the PhD on board? And the reason is because with the MD PhD program, you get 4 years of PhD training where you get your technical skills up, you get practice writing grants and things like that. It's possible to do that with just an MD. But the problem is when you start medical school, you're going to go into residency and then you're going to become an attending. And at that point, you're going to be behind what the MD PhD's students in regards to your technical abilities in the lab, as well as your grant writing abilities. So if you want bench research to be a very intimate part of your future career, the MD PhD does have some advantages. However, if you think you can overcome the challenges that are faced with not having the PhD and you want to learn these things on the fly and maybe lose some sleep while you're in residency and while you're attending, then it's perfectly possible to do it as just an MD. It's just the matter of, do you want to have a leg up when you start as an attending, or do you think you can overcome it once you become an attending?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rostin, for joining us tonight. And if y'all have any questions for Rostin, feel free to direct message him in the next few minutes of our panel as we go forward. We do need to get to our next presenter, though. I know there was a few extra questions in the chat, and hopefully our next presenters will cover them in their presentations. So Dr. Heath, I am going to invite you to join us today. Unmute yourself and share your screen if needed. Thank you very much.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in your session today. I am an internal medicine physician and a gastroenterologist. I'm on the faculty here at UNM's School of Medicine and in the Department of Internal Medicine. I currently am teaching a course called Doctoring, which I teach to the entire group of first year medical students for the entire first semester. In that course, I teach the students how to properly communicate with patients, how to conduct the initial interview that I'm sure some of you are familiar with if you've gone to physicians. And we also teach the complete head to toe physical exam on patients. I know quite a bit about our current admissions policies, and I thought I might start off and kind of review a few of those. Just you all might know some of them, but I thought I'd review them for your information, and then also let you know a little bit more about why they're so important in the first year of medical school. First of all, UNM has a minimum GPA requirement of 3.0 and a minimum MCAT score of 494, which translates into 32 percentile on MCAT. However, the medical school admits much higher than those scores in general. Published data from 2019 reveals that the median GPA was 3.74 for people admitted, and the median MCAT was 506, which is at the 68th percentile. For most medical schools, it's very important to at least have a 50th percentile on your MCAT. UNM likes to see above that, but again, the very minimum is a 494. It's the residency requirement for our medical school is you must be a New Mexico resident without exception. The only exception to that is if you're from a federally recognized Native American tribe, or you're in active military stationed in New Mexico. And also we do take a few witchy applicants. Otherwise, we do not take any out-of-state applicants. We often get applications from many people out of state, but we don't even look at their applications. For prerequisites, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but you must have biology 1 and 2 with lab, general chemistry 1 and 2 with lab, organic chemistry 1 and 2 with lab. You need physics 1 and 2, no lab, and you need a biochemistry or a biochemistry equivalent course with no lab. So those are really all the prerequisites that you absolutely have to have. UNM recommends that you take other science courses. The ones that are recommended are anatomy, physiology, microbiology, genetics, immunology, and of course, biochemistry. A lot of weight is put on biochemistry courses. All of those courses have to be done before you submit your application through AMCAS. You must get C's as a minimum grade in all those prerequisites. You cannot get a C minus. That would not count. And we don't accept pass fail either. It has to be a grade. Things are changing a little bit this year because of COVID. A lot of courses went online, and a lot of undergraduate schools have changed to pass fail. So this year is a little bit of an exception, but hopefully as we come out of this pandemic and everyone's allowed to go back into the classroom, we'll be back into grades. UNM also does not accept online coursework. There is one exception of 2. You can take 2 online courses. They cannot be lab courses. They have to be, and there can only be 2. A couple of things, the medical school rewrote their admissions mission and policy statement. And I thought I would just emphasize some of the things that's written down in that statement. And everything is online on their website too, if you'd like to read this. But the things that they really look for are, of course, besides academics, they do like to see diversity. They like to see people with resilience, people who have dealt with adversity successfully, maturity, empathy, high critical thinking skills. They like to see people who volunteer or live in rural settings. Socioeconomic status is also counted. Also, very important to have some kind of clinical setting experience. Shadowing is the one that's most preferred. It is difficult and quite a procedure, especially nowadays, to find someone that you can shadow. But if you can, that is a very important thing to do. It's really, a lot of people now are doing scribing, getting scribing jobs in ERs. That is somewhat important for experience, but the medical school really likes to see one-on-one shadowing opportunities with physicians or some other healthcare group. Community service is really, really important. So there are many opportunities in our setting in Albuquerque for community service. And I would encourage you all to look into those. Some really good ones are healthcare for the homeless. The Truman Clinic is kind of a new clinic now that deals with LGBTQ patients primarily. That's one that really likes to have some volunteers. And then even community outreach programs like Roadrunner Food Bank, lots of homeless shelters. Any kind of community service is very important. Another thing, as Rostin mentioned, some research experience is also very highly favored. Volunteering or being a research assistant in a lab at the medical school, they're not hard to get, and that's very an important thing as well that the medical school likes to look at. I think another thing that I'd really emphasize to all of you, that's a very important thing, is to think about, why do you want to be a physician? And a lot of people come into medical school kind of with a glamorized idea of what being a physician is like, with absolutely no experience or shadowing to really know what the day-to-day life is like for a physician. So that is something that's really important to think about, is why do you really want to be a physician? And coming up with a compelling reason for that is very important. Everyone tends to say, oh, I want to help people, of an answer. So you really need to think about why you want to be a physician, and really explore what it's like, the day-to-day life of a physician. Becoming a physician is extremely hard, extremely challenging, and it's extremely time-consuming. One of the things that we emphasize more and more now, and that I have to teach in my course, is something called, it's very hard to define, but it's something that the beginning first year students often really struggle with. a lot of habits that people have as an undergraduate don't match up with professional identity, and that's something to really consider. You have to be very careful what you put on your social media. You have to be careful. You don't want to be caught in a bar drunk or um, drinking with a bunch of fellow students. Those kinds of things you can get in trouble with at our medical school. So you have to be very aware to do are going to change when you go into medical school. As far as what I thought I'd also share with you some of the rigors of at least like the first 2 years in medical school. There's a policy now where you have to get at least a 75% in your coursework, even though when you take coursework at the medical school, it's a pass fail, but you actually get a grade, and you have to have at least a 75% or higher to pass. You're only allowed 2 fails before you are dismissed from medical school. You can apply for reinstatement, but that's a big deal to go through that. So with that said, you spend the majority of your time really studying. And I was going to point out to someone that mentioned earlier whether they could do research at the same time. Probably not in the first 2 years of medical school. Not saying that you can't do research later on, but at least the first 2 years, you are going to do nothing but studying for there are many classes that go on at the same time with tremendous amounts of material that you have to learn. In general, every class has a quiz every single week. The blocks are generally between 4 to 6 weeks, so you don't have a lot of time to learn an enormous amount of material for the final. Our medical school is a very progressive one. We put in a lot of new things just in the past few years. One of the things we have is something called the learning communities. And that's where the very first day that you enter medical school, you're grouped with another group of 6 to 8 other medical students, and you're given what's called a virtual house that'll have a name, like it'll be autumn, summer, west, north, south, etc. And you'll receive a mentor, a learning community mentor. It's always a physician, and that person will kind of be in charge of taking care of you for the entire 4 years of medical school. They nurture you. They help you if you're struggling in your coursework. And that's been a really successful program that UNM has put into place. So if any of you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heath. Do we have any questions at this time? Again, please feel free to unmute or ask them in the chat and I can read them out loud.
So we have some questions in the chat. Alana asks, at this time, is the first year of PA school taken with the first year of med school students?
Yes. In fact, they take my course. We group them in with medical students. And in fact, it's not just the first year, it's the second year too. Although they do have, they don't take everything the medical students take. They have their own separate coursework, but they do all the doctoring courses that we teach.
Okay, so another one from the chat from Sophia. Does working at UNMH count as clinical hours?
It depends what the work is. If it's clinical, then yes, that would be a clinical experience.
And then from Andre, let's see. I do have a question regarding the prereqs. I've taken some of the mentioned classes here in the McKinley Academy. Am I taking them again for my bachelor's, or would they be credited?
What is the McKinley Academy?
Andre, can you respond to Dr. Heath? Okay, so he just responded in the chat. He said it's like mid-college program here in Gallup.
If they are college level equivalent courses, that would be considered equivalent to a UNM college course like Biology 1 or Chemistry 1, then they would count.
Okay, so then just to wrap up these last questions, does scribing count as clinical hours for UNM?
No, scribing does not. It counts as some clinical exposure, but it is doesn't really count as a shadowing activity because the scribing jobs really vary depending upon where you are. Like some people, all they do is take some notes without ever seeing patients with physicians. So they really don't get involved watching physicians with patients. They really vary. Some scribing jobs are in clinics that where they do mainly office work and don't really get involved with patients. So the other issue with scribing is that it's in a very defined setting. It's usually in the ER. Usually medical schools like to see clinical exposure with a one-on-one shadowing experience with a physician, and primarily with people that do primary care, which would be internal medicine, family practice, surgery, OBGYN. Those are considered primary care.
Thank you very much again, Dr. Heath. We have a few more questions in the chat, but we do have to get on to our next panelist in order to keep our functionality of our event tonight. A little housekeeping. I am recording this for those who want to watch this later on. We will post it to the Honors YouTube channel after the event. And we do have a $25 Amazon gift card raffle at the end of this, so please stay for that chance to win. But before we get to that, we are going to introduce our final panelist, Dr. McKinnell. Dr. McKinnell is an advisor, and he will take it away from here. Thank you very much, Dr. McKinnell.
I always forget to unmute myself. Thanks for inviting me. And Jacqueline, thank you for sending me the link. I was kind of looking for it, and it didn't occur to me to look on the flyer, to tell you the truth. So sorry I clocked in a little bit late, but I'm glad I'm here. And yeah, as I said, thanks very much for inviting me to be a part of this. Just a little background. I also am a physician. I trained to be as a pediatric oncologist. I phased out of clinical work several years ago, but have worn a number of different hats during my time at UNM. Other than clinical work, I devoted a lot of time to teaching. So I've spent time teaching residents and medical students. I teach doctoring in Dr. Heath's course and have taught that course for, I don't know, since I came here. So that was almost 20 years ago. And in addition to that, some of your names look a little familiar to me. I also am one of the few faculty members from North Campus that actually teaches on main campus as well. I teach in their first year learning communities program, and I teach a course called So You Want to Work in Healthcare. I've been teaching that course since 2007. And for about 5 or 6 years ago, I was given the opportunity to start the Office of Pre-Health Profession Student Development. And basically, that office is really just devoted to students like you and helping you understand the process to get from where you are now to ultimately into the health professions program of your dreams. So, so I've worn a lot of different hats. I also am a learning communities mentor, so I also know a lot about that program. So I've worn a lot of different hats. And actually, I asked Jacqueline tonight specifically if I could go last, because I kind of wanted to clean up. I wanted to hear what other people had said. And then what I'm going to do is kind of go through and offer my own opinions about some of the comments that were made, hopefully clarify stuff and maybe add some more information to you. Rostin is so knowledgeable. It's always scary to hang out with Rostin and especially to follow him during a presentation. I do want to just comment on a couple of things that Rostin mentioned. First of all, as far as research goes, research is always a valuable addition to an application. If you don't have it at UNM, it's not a deal breaker. I think a lot of students come into UNM without a lot of research experience. However, with other medical schools around the country, they place different emphasis on research. So it may be a critical part of a medical school application at another school. Rostin did mention EMS 475. I recommend that course to a lot of students. It's actually a 1-semester course. The second semester of EMS 475 is called EMS 505. You don't have to take both semesters. You can only take one semester. And 475 is a great course because it incorporates kind of 3 different phases, which Rostin sort of alluded to. One of them is research design. So it actually teaches you how to design a research project. You do get to participate in research because the Department of Emergency Medicine, which runs the program, has research projects ongoing almost all the time in the emergency room. So they do teach you kind of the skills that you need to participate in research, and you are assigned to one of their research projects. That's great. The third aspect of that program, which is really, really important, especially in days like today, is that they also give you I see the question and I'll get to that. They also give you the opportunity to shadow. So they arrange for you to be able to shadow physicians working in the ED. And right now, during the time of COVID, it is one of the few ways that students have actually been able to continue shadowing during the pandemic. There are some prerequisites for EMS 475. The person that's going to be able to outline all of those for you is the person that Rostin referenced in his slide. That's Silas Bussman. Silas's email is sibussman@salud.unm.edu. And Silas can give you the breakdown. What I will tell you as far as the chemistries go, I believe that that you have to have completed Organic 1. I think that as far as coursework goes, I think that's as far as that you have to have gotten at least that far in your chemistry series. EMS 475 is offered fall, spring, and summer semesters. So they actually offer it 3 semesters. It's become tremendously popular. You do have to apply to get into the course. You can't simply register for it. So if you're interested in learning more about EMS 475, please, please, please take time and contact Silas. He'll really help you with that. He's a super, super nice guy. I was also, thanks, Jacqueline. I was also, really interested to hear what Rostin had to say about community service. And I'm going to second all those things that he said. One of the things, though, that I also want to toss in there, as I listen to people talking about medical school and other professional school applications, too often I hear people ask the question, what would look good? And that terminology kind of bothers me because to me, what happens is we then kind of reduce the whole process into kind of cosmetics. And I think that this process is much more important than that. I think that this whole process really is about sort of personal exploration. It's really an effort to understand who you are and what the things you need are that are going to provide you with a really satisfying and fulfilling profession. And so along the way, rather than looking for activities that will look good, what I always encourage students to do is to pursue activities that you're interested in. As Rostin said too, as far as majors go, I agree with that. I'm going to make a little comment about majors in just one second. But with volunteer work, I think it's really, really important. Do something you're passionate about. Find someone in the community that's doing work that you care about. And guys, Community service can be anything. If you love animals, work at an animal shelter. That absolutely counts as community service. If you're committed, if you believe in the power of literacy and you want to help 5-year-olds learn how to read, absolutely, that is fantastic community service. And yeah, there are other opportunities. If you know, there are opportunities to work with refugees, either through Catholic charities, or UNM also has a refugee well-being course. That is a year-long course that you can sign up for if you really want to explore and really assist refugees. So there's lots and lots of things. Your volunteer work does not have to be medically related, but I really want you to understand it's important to do something you're passionate about. Because when it comes time to write about your experiences and when you get to your interview, people are going to be very, very interested in not knowing how many hours of anything you did, but why you chose to do the activity you chose to do. You have to remember, most of us do not have the resources that we can throw money at someone who's doing work that we believe in. So if we can't give them money, the next most valuable thing that we can give them is our time. And so when you're doing volunteer work, what you are in essence doing is giving away the most valuable thing that you control. And from my perspective, I've never been on the admissions committee because I couldn't do the things I do in the undergraduate world if I were, but I've been on the intern selection committee for the Department of Pediatrics, very, very similar process. And so to me, whenever I was talking to applicants to be pediatric interns, I was really, really interested in why they made the choices they did. Right, so that is really that's something that I want you to be aware of. The other thing too is that when we talk about all the things that are a part of a successful application, the other thing that I've seen lots of students do, which scares me, is you make a list and you put a little box next to each thing. Volunteer work, working, leadership, and we put little boxes next to them with the tendency to check those boxes. That's not what this is about. All right, so I don't want you to think of this as a box checking exercise. I understand that all of you have limited time, and I also want you to feel okay about not doing everything. You know, I think that it gets overwhelming when we hear so many people telling us, oh, you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and you've got to have a 3.7 GPA, right? And many of you are working while you're in school, which means that you have even less time, you know, not only for your studies, but for everything else. So I want you to feel okay with this. You don't have to do everything. All right, so be all right with that. In your volunteer work, though, the other thing I would say is avoid what I call one-shot wonders. They're great to sort of be part of a clothing drive or a food drive or to feed Thanksgiving dinner to the homeless people. But, you know, when your volunteer experience is a series of 8 or 10 what I refer to again as one-shot wonders, that really does kind of make people think that this is a person who is into checking boxes. I would suggest as an alternative to that, again, finding something that you really care about and then committing to do that. So in other words, if you find something that you believe in, contact that organization, say, I'd love to come and work with you, and set aside 4 hours once a month and go and work with them, but do it every month. And if you have 2 or 3 years left in your college education, do it every month for 2 or 3 years. That shows a very, very different kind of commitment. And that's also something that registers with admissions committee folks. So that's kind of what I kind of feel about community service. The other thing that I want you, you know, Rostin said, you don't have to major in science. It's true, but I have to sort of say, I also want to kind of suggest it's fine to major in science. Rostin is not one of those people, but I have actually heard people make the recommendation to students that you should not major in science and you should choose something else because it will make you stand out. I think that is absolutely foolish. I think that is a foolish, foolish recommendation. If you love science, major in science. You are going to be studying something that you love, that you want to explore, that you want to learn more about, and you're going to do very, very well. But the rest of the story is, as Rostin said, if you want to go to medical school, but you love me, we've admitted people to our School of Medicine that have been music majors, that have been dance majors, that have been Spanish majors. So pick whatever. I mean, truly, along with Rostin, choose something that you want to learn about and make that your major. Remember, as a pre-med student, it's very for other pre-health professions, but as a pre-med student, you automatically complete a chemistry minor when you complete the prerequisites for medical school. A chemistry minor, guys, is a year of Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2, Organic 1, Organic 2, and Biochem 423. Those 5 courses are a chemistry minor. And I want to point out that in the course catalog, it still says that you have to take quantitative analysis for a chemistry minor, and that is inaccurate. The chemistry department needs to change that. They will accept Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2, Organic 1, Organic 2, and Biochem 423 as a chemistry minor. So every single pre-med student at UNM has a chemistry minor, of course, unless they're a biochem major. If you're a chemistry major or a biochem major, then the chemistry minor falls away. Okay, let's see. Shadowing. This is an incredibly difficult time to talk about shadowing, and I think your questions and your concerns are right on target. First of all, in general, there are virtually no shadowing opportunities at this time available anywhere, and that is all related to the pandemic. Not only is that the case at UNM, but also the AMA sent out a directive to private practitioners discouraging them from bringing anyone that wasn't an absolute essential provider or essential worker into a clinical environment where they might be exposed. That, of course, things are changing. And so I hope that as we see more and more people getting vaccinated, and I hope all of you are registered to get your vaccines, so that as soon as they open it up for 18, 19, 20-year-olds, that you can that you get those. But once that happens, once we have more vaccine, then I think we're going to see shadowing reopen. I do also want to tell you that I think when shadowing opportunities open up again, almost everyone is going to require that you be vaccinated before they're going to let you come into a clinical environment. So it really is critical. If you can get your COVID vaccine, get your COVID vaccine. I got the little message from Matt that I have a minute, and so I'm going to stop. But what I want, there we go. Thank you, Jacqueline. One other thing, if you can type this up and put it up, I want to sort of put out a commercial for an event that is happening on Saturday. Hopefully you all already heard about it and already registered for it. But this Saturday is the 5th annual UNM Health Professions Program. Starts at about 8:30, 8:45 on Saturday morning. We'll end at 4:30 Saturday afternoon. During the course of the day, you will have the opportunity to choose from over 70 different workshops covering a whole host of topics, including MD PhDs and can you be married in medical school and what are basic requirements and how do you think about writing a personal statement. All those kinds of, all those are just a sampling of the workshops. The website for the Health Professions Symposium is hps.unm.edu. And if you go on that website, you can click on workshops, you can drop, there's a menu that will show you all the workshops that are being offered. If you click on the title of the workshop, it'll give you who the presenter is and a brief description of that. In addition to that, there is a registration tab. If you click on the registration tab, it goes to attendee registration. Fill out the form, I think it's 3 lines. You do have to register in order to attend. So please, as soon as we get done, jump on the website, register to attend. I think it's going to be a really fun and exciting day, and I hope it's a really, really valuable resource for all of you. In addition to the workshops, there's also going to be a 1-hour information table session from 11:45 to 12:45. During that, representatives from about 60 different organizations and programs are going to be there again to give you the opportunity to talk with them and meet with them and get your questions answered. So please, please take advantage of that. My office, I do lots and lots of workshops. I also meet with students individually for advisement. I work with students on developing personal statements. I work with them on interview preparation. I do lots of stuff. My email address for my office is prehealthprofessions, one word, prehealthprofessions with an S on the end, @unm.edu. I'm the only person that answers that email. So if you want to contact me, shoot me an email at that address and I will be happy to sort of help you in any way I can. That's really why I'm here. And I have no idea if there's any time at all left for any questions, but if anyone has any questions and we have time, I'll be happy to help with questions.
There were some questions left over from the chat that I would just like to cover before anyone else asks. Muskan had asked about volunteering. I believe you touched on that. Does our volunteering have to be both clinical and non-clinical, or can it be either? Is there anything else that you would like to add for that? Okay, and then Alex
I hope that what I said about volunteering was clear. You literally can do anything. It does not, everything in your life is not about medicine. And guys, that's also really, really important. Anything about any of our lives, you know, Rostin's life, my life, Dr. Heath's life, we have lots and lots of things going on besides medicine, and you do too. So everything doesn't have to be about medicine and shouldn't be. And don't pretend when you're writing your essays and you go for your interview that it is.
Thank you. And then Alex, I don't know if this would be for Dr. Heath or which one of you wants to take it, but how do you feel about prerequisites at CNM?
As long as they are the same equivalent college level course in chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, they're acceptable.
And what we're seeing now, and it's not only CNM, it's at any community college from around the state. What we're seeing now, we're seeing more and more students that are applying to medical school and being accepted into medical school as what are referred to as non-traditional students. Those are people that have done their undergraduate work, have gone out and maybe worked and done other things, and then have decided, no, I really want to do medicine. And then they come back and they have to do the prerequisite courses. And for them, for many of those people that are working during the day, the only alternative they have is coursework offered at a community college. So what we're seeing now, 15 or 20 years ago, coursework done at a community college was really, I think, frowned on. That is no longer the case. So absolutely, please feel free to do your coursework at CNM. Remember that the cost of a credit hour at CNM is 1/3 the cost of a credit hour at UNM. So even from a financial perspective, a lot of times I encourage people to go to CNM. The only prerequisite that is not offered at CNM is biochemistry 423. They do not offer that. So that's the only prereq that you actually can't take at CNM.
Mm-hmm.
And then one last question, would you suggest shadowing physicians in one specific field or branching out to see other fields?
Rostin mentioned how difficult it can be to find a shadowing physician, to a physician to shadow. So one of the things that I want you to understand, first of all, the reason you're shadowing, first and foremost, is so that you can make an informed decision about your future career. All right. It's not about logging hours. It's trying to decide, is this work that I actually want to be doing? Is this work that's going to be making me happy? The other thing I want to point out to you is that a lot of times you think, well, I want to be a neurosurgeon. I really want to shadow a neurosurgeon. It's really hard to find a neurosurgeon to shadow. There aren't that many of them. And what I want to remind all of you is that all of us, before we become pediatric oncologists, which is what I was, or neurosurgeons or obstetricians, before we become any of those things, we become doctors. All right. And so on some level, our education during the first 4 years, we all have the same education, and we're all challenged with learning the same skills. And some of those are really basic, like communication skills. Remember, when you walk into a room and you meet a patient for the first time, that patient is a total stranger. But when you walk in as a physician, you walk in understanding that your responsibility is to take care of that person. And so really, that's a huge undertaking. That's hard. That's really difficult. And so the challenge, how do you begin to do that? When you're walking in and that's a total stranger, how do you begin to understand that person well enough to take care of them? And so these are the kinds of things that you can be looking for, when you're shadowing. So you can shadow anyone, any healthcare provider is going to be faced with that challenge. It doesn't matter what kind of medicine they're doing. So shadow whoever will let you in the room with them. One thing that I would suggest is that if you want to be a doctor, shadow a doctor. All right. So you should be shadowing someone that's got the letters behind their name that you want to be. If you want to be a PA, you should shadow a PA. Now, if you want to be a doctor and you shadow a PA, that's great, because you also then begin to understand what a PA does and how they do it and how that might vary and be different from an MD. Again, helps you with choosing a career, why it helps you understand why you're choosing a career as an MD versus a career as a PA or a nurse practitioner.
One thing I'd like to add, I don't know if all of you are aware of, we do have another medical school in our state. It's a DO school. It's down in Las Cruces. They take about 3 times more, accept about 3 times more people than we accept at UNM. I think they're up to 175 people that they take every year. If any of you are interested in becoming a DO, that's another, it's called the Burrell Osteopathic School. So that's another school that you can explore besides just the MD program here. UNM is the only MD program in the state.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. McKinnell, Dr. Heath, and Rostin. We greatly appreciate you joining us for this panel. I hope all of our students attending today got to learn at least one thing about their future career in a pre-health profession. I did link Rostin's presentation in the chat. Hopefully, please copy that and paste that link. We're also going to attach it to our website later on this evening, tomorrow, as well as this video, in order to allow all of those who want to watch it in the future to watch it again. I am now going to share my screen. Hopefully, my Wi-Fi has been a little wacky. I do have a screen to do a raffle with us. And this raffle is for, oh no, hopefully you can y'all see it? Someone, anyone?
For a
No,
second.
you can't. Okay, bummer. Let's
You
try
were
this.
showing it to us and then it went to Rostin's presentation instead.
How about now?
There we go.
Sweet. So I've got the spinner here. Each of you has your name on here. You must be present to win. I'm going to give it a spin. There's fun music. You might be able to hear it. You might not. If you do win, we ask that you stay on a few seconds after this call so we can chat with you for a few seconds. Danica, are you still on with us? Are you here? Danica, is Danica here? Anyone?
No, it looks like she has logged off.
Bummer, we're gonna spin again. You get another chance to win. Is Sophia no last name here?
It looks like she also logged off.
Oh no, 3rd time's the charm, hopefully. I'm so sorry, everyone. Shivani, are you here? Shivani. Shivani is here.
Awesome, she's
Sweet.
here.
I am going to stop this share. Shivani, if you don't mind staying on with us for a few more seconds. Everyone, please enjoy your night. Thank you so much to our presenters for being here and sharing their knowledge with us. We wish you a great rest of your evening, a great weekend, and a great success with midterms if you have them this coming week. Have a great night, everyone. Goodbye. All right, Shivani, if you don't mind, we do need your email. We've got a little bit of paperwork we have to fill out before we can get you that gift card. So if you drop your email in the chat, one of us on the team will get in contact with you with all that paperwork tomorrow or Monday in order to get you that gift card. Sound good?
One other thing, are you on campus to pick it up or will we have to mail it?
It's a digital link, so you should be able to get the code from us. So I don't think that'll be a problem.
My bad, didn't know that.
You're good, Jacqueline.
So I left my email in the chat and you guys can get to me anytime. Thank you so much for organizing this. I had a good time. I learned a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate hearing that feedback. Enjoy your night.
Thank you. You guys too. Bye.
Bye.
That went really well, guys.
That was so good.
Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Dude, I can't wait to tell them that we had like 26 participants.
Wait, hang on. Let me cancel this recording before we talk anything wacky.